They call me Nia Ashwinter when they remember to use a name at all. Most days it's simply girl. I'm on my knees with a bristle brush, scrubbing the soot from the great hall tiles, when Kasia's slippers click to a stop beside the bucket. She smells like crushed violets and fresh coin. Missed a spot, she lilts. Several, actually. I don't look up. Looking up makes her cruel. Yes, Lady Kasia. Her laughter is sad and soft, and blade thin. Mother says the Redmere Alpha will dine here tonight. Try not to shed, wolf on the rugs. I keep my eyes on the grey water. Omegas shed nothing but silence. That's what Lady Verena taught me after my mother fell from the ravine and the manor decided the fall was somehow mine. After the plates are cleared and the last goblet shines, I slip to the scullery window. Night has rinsed the hills clean. The moon hangs like a polished coin. I press my forehead to the cold glass and whisper to a woman who no longer breathes. If the goddess is real, let her look this way once. From the dining hall, laughter rises, a chorus of alphas fat on winter wine. Kasia's voice rides the sound, bright as a bell. To the blood moon ball, she trills. To the choosing. My fingers curl. The choosing is where the Alpha King of Nightmare walks the light-drowned floor and pretends fate sings only for the jeweled. The choosing is not where a kitchen Omega belongs. Still, the thought slips under my skin and refuses to leave. What would it feel like to be seen? Not pitied. Not blamed. Seen. Girl! Lady Verena's call cracks the air. I grab the towel, the ash, the habit of making myself small, and go. At dawn an envoy rides in, silver seal glinting on black wax. Verena breaks it with greedy fingers. A summons to the blood moon ball. She breathes. For my daughter. Of course she means Kasia. Of course she means not me. Scour the steps, Verena tells me. A true king hates dirt. A true king, I think, should hate cruelty more. All day the manor hums. Seamstresses coaxing moonlight into gowns, footmen polishing the carriage until my reflection stares back, hollow-eyed, soot-rimmed. Kasia twirls a practiced curtsy in a pool of sun. When the Alpha King sees me, he'll forget every other name. She purrs. Perhaps he'll remember his own. I murmur, and pay for it with a slap of words, Omega, gutter, curse. When dusk leans gold against the windows, the carriage snatches them away in a flurry of silk and laughter. The house exhales. My ribs loosen. Mira, the youngest scullery maid, slips from the shadows with a conspirator's smile. Behind her, two friends carry a bundle tied in twine. We saved the good scraps, Mira says. If you stitch while the embers hold, you could go. Go? My voice is a moth's wing. To the edge of the crowd, Ruth says. To stand under music once. The twine falls. Pale river blue silk, moss silver net, a ribbon the color of a dawn cloud. I shouldn't. If Verena learns. But the thought of the ball is a tide. To stand against it is to drown. Needle, I whisper. Thread. We sew until the coals are glass and the air smells like wax and wild hope. By moonrise a dress lies across the table, patched, daring, trembling like a secret about to be told. Traveling by shadow is a skill all Omegas learn. I take the east road, feet quiet, breath folded. Ahead, Nightmare Palace, its arches catching the moon like nets of bone. Lanterns braid light along the colonnades. The air tastes of pine, cold iron, orange peel. At the gate, guards are too consumed by the silk tide to notice a slip of blue at the margins. Inside, violins, a honeyed hum of power, chandeliers shivering with 1,000 little suns. I keep to the gilt edges, a ripple in a sea of rank and perfume. Alphas move like own thunder. Betas in frost-dark coats. And there, an empty dais crowned by a chair of carved moonstone. My wolf, quiet for years, presses its muzzle to my ribs. Careful, it murmurs. But do not cower. Kasia finds me anyway. Cruelty has a nose. She halts with a poisonous smile and a gown poured like water over obsidian. Oh, she says, bright with false surprise. The ash girl learned to walk. Only because ash remembers fire. I tell her. It's foolish. It's delicious. Her gaze flicks to the throne. When the king arrives, try not to stain the floor with your all. A horn peals. The hall turns as one. Doors open on a slow wind. The Alpha King of Nightmare steps into the world like a promise kept too long, tall, unarmored save for the way the light chooses him, eyes dust gold. Rowan Nightbane, the stories say, Rowan, whose word can lift a pack, or level it. His gaze grazes the crowd, indifferent as winter. And then it catches on something blue at the edge of the room, and stops. Being seen is like stepping into cold river water. It startles, steals breath, then forces truth to the surface. The Alpha King's attention tightens the air, whispers thin to threads. He doesn't beckon. He doesn't need to. He simply looks, and the look crosses the room like a bridge. I don't step onto it. I can't. My knees remember stone floors and Verina's lessons in vanishing. When I try to retreat, the crowd opens where I move, making space as if I'm a flame they're smart enough not to touch. Rowan speaks to no one, and the hall learns to be silent. A nod to the musicians, the tempo shifts. A courtier, all silver buttons and sharp smiles, intercepts me with a bow sharpened to mockery. Dance? He asks, voice loud enough to carry. I could say no. I don't. I won't be the kind of Omega who refuses the world out of habit. I set my palm on his, light as breath, and let the waltz steal our feet. We turn beneath the chandelier forest. For a heartbeat, music rebuilds a life in which I am a girl in a blue dress and nothing hurts. For a heartbeat, I almost believe it. Then Kasia glides near, partner in tow, lips sweet, eyes venom. Sister, she sighs. You shine. Even dust can shine, I say, and her mouth tightens to a seam. The song ends. Applause knits the room. Kasia leans, mask dropping a fraction. Careful, she whispers. You're about to wake from this. I do not say, I'm done waking hurt. Humiliation arrives with the precision of a bell. Kasia pivots to the nearest circle of nobles and lifts her voice just enough. What a lovely dress, she coos, tilting her head at me. I had one like it when I was 12. Did you raid Mother's rag trunk, darling? Laughter, quick and eager. I clasp my hands, knuckles white under moonlight silk. It was discarded. Like you, someone murmurs, and the circle ripples with vicious delight. Kasia reaches, too fast for me to flinch, and pinches a seam near my shoulder. The stitch holds a breath. Then it doesn't. Silk sighs. Fabric slithers. Cold air kisses to bare skin. The hall inhales as one. I grab the torn edge, heat rearing up my throat, ears roaring. Somewhere a goblet cracks against marble. Oh no! Kasia gasps prettily, hand to her lips. Clumsy Omega! Shame is an old enemy. I know its teeth. They close. I brace. And yet, beneath the bright, brutal hush, I hear another sound. A sound that doesn't belong to court or cruelty. A low note like storm over pines. The growl turns the chandeliers to frost. It is not loud. It doesn't need to be. Every alpha spine answers. Every beta remembers what obedience is made of. The crowd splits, leaving a clean line from me to the dais. Rowan Nightbane descends the steps, his cloak trailing a night without stars. Close, he smells of cedar smoke and winter rain. He stops beside me, not touching, and the space between us becomes the only honest place in the room. Who laid hands on her? His voice is quiet iron. No one speaks. Cowards love crescendos, not consequences. He doesn't repeat himself. He simply shrugs off his cloak and wraps it around my shoulders with a care that kills me. The weight steadies my breath. The warmth erases the room. An Omega is under a king's peace in my hall, he says, almost to himself, and therefore to everyone. Shame her, and you challenge me. A tremor runs through the nobles like wheat in wind. Kasia, gone white, finds her tongue. Your Majesty, she isn't anyone. Rowan's head turns a fraction. Every wolf is someone. He looks back at me. What is your name? I should be a shadow. I should be nothing. Nia. I manage. Nia Ashwinter. His gaze flickers. Recognition? No. Something older. Nia, he repeats, tasting syllables like an oath. Stand? Not small. Not sorry. And the strange thing is, I do. He offers me the edge of his hand, not a command but a question. I place my fingers there, and the air changes shape. A hush falls that is not fear, it is attention shifted from spectacle to story. Rowan lifts his chin to the musicians. The next measure blooms, slow, unornamented, as if the melody itself refuses to look away. We step. The floor is a river of light. His presence is the bank that keeps it from swallowing me. My court loves to test the king, he says softly, voice for me alone. They forget I enjoy the exam. I didn't come to be tested, I whisper. Or chosen. What did you come for? A door. A breath that wasn't borrowed. Something like approval warms his eyes. Then take both. We turn beneath the moon-washed panes. Somewhere behind us, Verena's friends chew their tongues bloody. Somewhere ahead, the rest of my life paces. When the final bow sighs, Rowan doesn't release my hand. He faces his court, their jewels, their hunger, and speaks as if delivering weather. By Moonlight's witness, this cruelty ends here. He looks at me again, and the gold in his eyes deepens to amber dawn. And the old story of what an omega is ends with it. An elder peals from the shadows, silver-braided and grave, eyes fixed on the cloak draped over my shoulders. Your Majesty, he says slowly, permit a test. Rowan's mouth tilts. You fear I've lost my judgment to music? I fear, as ever, only the goddess. The elder raises a palm in blessing. If the moon marked this one, the mark will rise. The court swallows a collective gasp. Legends mutter of night sigils that surface on the chosen. Lines of light that answer a king's oath. I want to laugh at the absurdity. I want to run. Rowan turns my wrist gently, his thumb a steady weight. Breathe, he says. I do. The world threads itself thin, and then thicker, brighter, stranger. Cool fire pulses beneath my skin where his touch rests. A thin, silver line unfurls across my wrist like frost writing its name on glass. Runes wake and interlock, moon, river, home. The hall forgets how to be a hall. Someone kneels. Then another. Then 10. Even alphas bow their heads. Kasha makes a sound like something fragile closing. Rowan doesn't kneel. Kings don't? He only looks at the light and lets a long breath out, almost relief, mostly inevitability. The goddess remembers, he says. And so will we. Name the mark. Rowan tells the elder without looking away from me. The tide moon. The elder whispers, eyes wet. Keeper of the lowborn. Binder of broken houses. Last seen when the packs were scattered and a woman with river hair called them home. The words skid across my ribs and catch. That can't be mine. Rowan's mouth quirks with a gentleness he probably keeps in a locked room. You're wearing it. The court stares with the helpless awe of those discovering the world has rules they didn't write. Lady Verena is not among them yet, but her orbit is, clutch-mouthed nobles, blood-laced cousins, each one calculating how quickly opinion can pivot and still look like conviction. Kasha of Verena, Rowan says without turning. His voice is oil on winter water. Step forward. She does, wobbling in shoes made for floors that never answer back. You tore a dress from a wolf in my sight, he says. You imagined yourself higher by making another smaller. He inclines his head at the mark on my skin. You misjudged the size of the moon. Kasha's lips tremble. I didn't know. You didn't care. He gestures to the guards. We will speak of restitution at dawn. For now, leave my hall. She staggers from the light like it burns. After judgment comes drift, courtiers eddying in anxious circles, whispers inventing new histories at a furious pace. Rowan guides me to a colonnade where the air tastes of rosemary and stone. The cloak hangs heavy and right. My torn dress rustles like a secret forgiven. Why do this? I ask, voice low. You could have looked away. A king can always look away. He studies the garden where moonflowers are opening their pale mouths to the night. When I was a boy, he says, my father told me an alpha's first oath is not to dominance, but to shelter. If I forget that, I deserve neither crown nor king. You don't even know me. He considers. I know how cruelty sounds. And I know what the moon just wrote in your skin. His gaze returns, quieter. I also know the way my wolf went still when you looked at me. Heat ghosts my throat. And what does that mean? That I will not let the world teach you to fear me. We stand in an almost silence that feels like a held open door. Out in the court, a bell marks the hour. In my chest, something answers, bell for bell. Will you stay the night? Rowan asks at last, not royal, simply human. My healers can mend the seams Kasha's spite broke. My scribes can mend nothing, but they'll try. I'll stay, I say, because this is the first place tonight that doesn't ask me to shrink to fit it. A seamstress named Orla tuts at the damage and works as if the thread is prayer. While she stitches, a healer dabs my shoulder with something that smells like mint and fallen rain. You flinched before she touched you, he notes. I learned to hear hurt before it arrives. You may unlearn it. When they finish, Orla presses a pin into my palm, moon-shaped, dull silver. For luck, she says. For teeth. A page arrives, breathless. His Majesty asks if you will walk the gallery. The moon gallery is a spine of windows and portraits. Queens with river hair and storm eyes look down as if waiting for an answer only I can provide. I stop before one painted in smoke and dawn. Who? Rienne of the Tide Moon, Rowan says from the doorway. She pulled warring packs to a single table and made them eat bread before they ate each other. Did they love her? They feared her. Then they loved her. Then they did both, which is the correct order. We drift to the last pane where the night is a lake, and the palace throws its stars upon it. Rowan's reflection hangs beside mine, gold and blue. Whatever tomorrow writes, he says, let it be something you chose. For the first time in years, I imagine a tomorrow that doesn't taste like someone else's breath. Dawn is a blade of milk along the horizon when the court assembles for verdicts. Rowan's throne is sunlight on stone. He wears it without effort. I stand to his right, not behind, cloak pinned, shoulders level. Lady Verena arrives in pearls that look like teeth. Kasha, pale, holds fast to dignity as if it were a railing on a ship listing hard to one side. Rowan doesn't thunder. He states, by witness of the blood moon night and the rising mark, restitution is owed. He gestures to Verena. You will fund a sanctuary in the city for Omegas cast out of their houses. Bread, beds, books. You will endow it with land you cannot miss and time you will. Verena opens her mouth. Closes it. Bows a fraction that hurts her spine. Kasha, Rowan continues, you will serve there for a season and learn the shape of gentleness from those who had none to spare. Kasha's mouth trembles. And if I refuse? You won't, he says, not cruel, simply sure. But if you do, you'll learn the shape of exile instead. He turns to me last. His voice shifts, private in a public place. Nia Ashwinter, will you name this house? The word arrives before fear can strangle it. Haven of the Low Moon. Rowan smiles, the kind that becomes a story. So written. So done. Somewhere in the city, a door I have not yet seen swings open. By mid-morning, petitioners spill into the East Court like a small, nervous tide. Alphas with tidy grievances. Betas with contracts dressed up as mercy. Omegas with knuckles cracked white from carrying the world. Rowan sits the throne with his usual unarmored certainty, and I stand to his right again, the cloaks wait a reminder that I am not invisible here. A pack from the northern Furlands bows low. Their alpha, a woman with a scar like lightning, asks for rights to winter pasture. The rival alpha hisses its ancestral. The room bristles. I feel the argument long before I understand it. It moves like cold through a seam. Show me the maps, the king says. He listens the way a riverbed listens, quiet, shaping. I watch lines that are ink and pride snake across parchment. If the low meadows flood, I hear myself say, your lambs drown. Trade a higher terrace for a winter's safety. You lose face, not stock. Silence blinks. The scarred alpha studies me, then nods once. Done. Her rival frowns, trapped by the obviousness of not killing baby sheep. Rowan's mouth tilts. No gavel strikes. The court exhales. The Luna's council honors both packs. The elder intones, and the title bumps my ribs hard enough to echo. Luna. I am not crowned, not bound by right, yet the word has begun to move through these halls like a rumor the moon herself started. After, when we step behind the veil of a colonnade, Rowan lets the quiet pool between us. You felt it, he says. The seam? He nods. The old queens called it the undercurrent. When the strong speak, it's often the powerless who are about to drown. I think of the haven of the low moon, of beds and bread and books waiting to be born from Verena's unwilling charity. Then we throw them ropes, I say. Or we teach them to swim. And sometimes, he answers, eyes honey dark, we move the river. Mira finds me in the seamstress hall that afternoon, bare feet whispering over rushes. They're lining the first cots, she says, cheeks bright. Ruth's nailing shelves like a thunder god. We carry baskets to the city quarter where the haven will live, a narrow street, a sunless bend, the smell of yeast and horse and wet stone. The building is simple, board walls, clay-tiled roof, but it breathes like something just waking. Inside, the floor is warm where light spills. Omegas hammer and sweep and laugh with a relief that sounds like breaking chains. I show them the sketch I made at dawn, a kitchen long as a hymn, a reading corner, a washroom with a cistern that will not freeze. Books? Someone whispers, disbelieving. Stories feed the hunger's bread can't. I tell her. We'll teach cipher and script. Numbers, too. Mira threads the moonpin into her scarf. And we'll teach sleeping without fear. When we return to the palace, dust salted and buzzing, Verena waits in the arch like a storm that can't find lightning. She gives a brittle smile that doesn't reach her eyes. A generous vision, she says, voice dipped in civility. And expensive. Less expensive than a city of rogues you created, I answer pleasantly. Her jaw feathers. My coffers are not the Alpha King's purse. No, I agree. They're your promise. Keep it, and you may yet like the woman who wears your face. For a heartbeat, something painful and human moves behind her pearls. Then Kasia appears at her shoulder, eyes banked ash. She carries a ledger and a bundle of clean cloth. What do you want me for my season? She asks, voice flat and terrified and trying. I point to the haven map. Laundry first. Then bread. Then reading. She swallows. Nods. The world does not forgive easily, it does sometimes begin again. Night stretches thin as hammered silver. The king and I walk the inner grounds where cypresses keep counsel with the stars. I should be bone-tired. Instead, I am a bell rung softly and still shivering with sound. Do you regret naming it? Rowan asks. The haven? I shake my head. Names build doors. And doors invite wolves, he says wryly. Some of whom remember Verena's coin bought their dinner last winter. Let them come, I say. Let them see what coin buys when mercy spends it. We pause by the practice green. Guards move like shadows, teaching each other to be more carefully dangerous. Rowan watches them with an expression I cannot read, pride, and the ache of having been young enough to need instruction. When I claimed you, he says, still looking outward, I did not do it to make you safe so much as to make this court remember what safety means. You used the king's voice to return a girl her skin, I answer. If that is not the root of safety, tell me what is. His smile ghosts. You make me sound better than I am. I'll settle for exactly what you are, I say. A man who didn't look away. The wind slips through cypress hands. My wolf stretches in my chest and lays its head down, not tamed, never that, but content as if the packet lost is listening again. Tomorrow, Rowan says, turning, we ride to the outlying houses. The alphas will want to see the mark with their own doubting eyes. I lift my wrist. The tide moon answers with a faint, faithful glow. Let them bring doubt, I say. I'll bring light. We leave before the city warms, hooves ringing on stone like small, bright promises. The royal standard trails night and dawn together. I ride beside the king on a gray mare with opinions. Our escort is lean, his beta, a hunter with smile lines and a bow that hums, 2 guards who look forged, not born, Orla, who insisted on field mending, and the elder who named my mark. The first holdfast sits on a ridge of heather and stubborn sheep. Its alpha greets us with a smile that weighs, measures, doubts. He bows to Rowan, glances at me, and bows again, fractionally deeper. Your Majesty. Lady. Just Nia, I say, offering a hand he does not expect. His surprise blooms into respect. They bring disputes, of course, borders, water, a beta who traded blankets to an omega at a price that shivers me. I listen. When I speak, it's only to ask, what would fairness taste like in your mouth? It's a strange question, it makes liars choke. By noon a compromise stands that saves sheep, softens pride, and returns coin to hands that make bread instead of bruises. The omega whose blankets were cheated returns with her daughter, a girl the age I was when the world forgot to make room. She clutches a frayed book like it's a loaf. Bring her to the haven, I tell her mother. No one should figure the world out alone. Rowan hears me. Approval flickers across his face and settles like a star that has found a place to sit. By dusk we've made 3 such circles, speak, listen, mend. I should ache. I glow. At the 4th holdfast, a narrow man in a narrow coat says sweetly, Kings rise and kings fall, but the old order knows its depth. An omega wearing a king's cloak does not change the river's course. I lift my wrist. The mark casts silver on his shoes. Rivers don't change course, I say. They remember where they meant to go. Trouble finds us on the moor where gorse chews the wind. 6 riders in twilight leather crest a hill with mock courtesy. Rogues, but not ruined, fed, armed, organized. Their leader's grin shows neat, expensive teeth. We've come for a tax, he calls. Road use. Royal escort surcharge. The guards flow forward. The beta's bow sighs like a patient animal. Rowan doesn't move. He lets silence do the first work. Your king does not pay bandits, he says. Your king, the rogue returns, does not own this road. That's when I taste it, the undercurrent snapping from swagger to hunger. Their coats are expensive. Their eyes are not. Someone higher starves them on pride. Whose mark do you carry? I ask. Their leader laughs. We're free. Free men with matched horses and new girths, I say. Free men who still smell of a cellar where orders are whispered. Tell me his name and I'll tell you your price. Something in his face hitches. He spits near his boot. Names are for callers. Rowan's voice slides quieter. Last chance. Walk away. They charge. The world narrows to hooves and iron, to Orla's curse needlebright, to the beta's bow talking fluent wind. A rider peels toward me, the gray mare shows him her opinion with both heels. I keep my seat and let the fear come and go like a wave, not a drowning. When it breaks, 2 rogues lie groaning, one bleeds from pride and shoulder, and the other 3 have discovered the mathematical truth of retreat. Rowan dismounts and offers the leader, pinned under the beta's boot, a choice. Drop the coat, he says. Pick up bread at the haven tomorrow. Ask for Kasha. She owes the world and will not short you. The man scowls. I'm not an omega. The haven is for wolves, I say. If you want a different word, bring a new one and we'll hang both over the door. He looks at me the way men look at rain they did not schedule, and nods once. We return after moonrise, road dust in our teeth and stories in our pockets. The palace smells like cardamom and lamp oil. I should go to my chamber. Instead, I find myself outside the king's map room, the door ajar, candlelight laying gold across a country of ink. Rowan stands with his palms braced on the table, studying borders like faulty stitches. Without turning, he says, "If you come in, you have to tell me whether I should move the river." I step beside him. Red lines, old alliances. Black roads. Blue water. "If you move the river," I say, "the reeds remember where they were. Sometimes it's kinder to plant new reeds." He huffs a tired laugh. "You talk like a queen and a mason. Both build where things fall." He straightens, weariness drawing a shadow under his eyes. I realize the danger of loving a king is not crowns or daggers. It is watching the weight choose his bones every day. "Sit," I say, taking the pen. "Name what keeps you pacing." He lists them: a border feud with a pack whose alpha uses tradition like a cudgel, a merchant house that launders cruelty through charity. I whisper that someone in Verina's circle would like the mark on my wrist to fade, preferably by cutting. "Let me speak to the merchant house," I say. "Cruelty hates daylight and ledgers." "And the whisper?" "I've spent years sleeping beside knives I couldn't see." I roll my sleeve. The tide moon stirs, luminous and unafraid. This time, the knife can try sleeping beside me. Something fierce and quiet passes over his face. He comes close enough that cedar smoke and winter lift the little hairs on my neck. "If the knife so much as thinks of you wrong in my walls, the walls will learn a new word for falling." I don't step back. "And if the knife lives in your court? Then my court will learn a new word for king." 2 days later, the merchant house opens its polished doors to my knock and tries not to look appalled that the Alpha King's not yet queen has come with a satchel instead of an entourage. Their steward is velvet, courteous, and absolutely certain all problems can be solved with tea. "I'm fond of tea," I tell him, "and fonder of receipts." In the back office the ledgers sit, thick as winter bread. Numbers don't lie, the hands that write them do. I follow a trail of neatly rounded kindnesses until it arrives at a charity mill that pays omegas to sew bandages for injuries they acquired working longer shifts to afford the bread the charity sells back. The steward blinks, offended by arithmetic. That appears inelegant. It appears like a door that only swings one way. I close the book. "You'll reverse the mill's debt scheme, buy back every loan at cost, and deliver a cart of flour to the haven each third day until the next moon." He smiles thinly. Or I ask the Alpha King to audit your house using the word fraud, and the quills won't stop until every cockroach has a crown." A beat. Then another. He bows. "3rd days will suit us." When I step into the street, Kasia is there with 2 sacks of bran on her shoulders and a pair of stubborn braids that make her look like the girl she might have been in a kinder world. She takes me in, alone, determined, not dead. "You shouldn't walk without guard," she mutters. "This city is my guard," I say. "Cities don't love. Then we teach it." She scrapes a hand across her brow. "The haven oven's broke." "Good," I say. "We'll build better ones." And for once she smiles, small and almost bright, as if the season she owes might become a season she keeps. Word travels faster than hooves. The king's omega who is and is not yet queen, the mark that woke, the cloak that covered her, the stepsister working at the low moon ovens with ash on her cheeks. With word comes envy. With envy, invitation. The great hunt of Frostfall, excuse for alphas to parade their teeth, arrives with banners and boasts. Rowan would skip it, tradition drags him like a tide. "They will expect a spectacle," he says as we dress in leather that smells like storms. "Then let's give them a different one." On the meadow below the black pines, horns bray, hounds bay, and men who should know better clap each other into worse. We ride to the line. The master of hunt recites rules older than honesty. Alpha Severin of Ironvale, proud jaw and colder heart, sweeps me a bow meant as a cutting. "Will her status prevent her from keeping up?" "Only your manners will," I say sweetly, and somebody chokes on laughter. The boar breaks late, old, clever, angry. The field surges like a badly taught sea. I hang back, watching its line of thought through scrub and shadow. When it hooks right toward a copse and the hounds tangle badly, half the alphas thunder past the opening and don't see it. No, I tell Rowan, and we turn. The gray mare eats ground. Rowan's black moves like a lie that turned honest. We slide into the boar's wake where the earth dips to a shallow stream. Its hooves splash, stumble. I swing down, cloak pinned, heart lucid. The boar rears ragged with fear and rage, and for a breath the world is tusk and thunder. Then I step to the side most men forget exists and speak, not with words, with stillness. Wolves are not the only ones who hear the undercurrent. The boar's eye finds me. Its breath rasps. It drops. Drinks. Walks on. When the others crash through in a spray of stupidity, they find a king who didn't need to kill to win, and an omega who did not need to prove she belonged by bleeding for it. Rowan looks at me over the river that didn't move and yet did. Pride warms his voice without catching fire. The realm, he says, loud enough for the meadow to learn, will remember this hunt for a vow, not a trophy. He lifts his hand, mine in it, and the court falls silent as winter. By the rights of Alpha, by the witness of King, I vow this. In my woods, in my halls, in my laws, the smallest wolf walks unafraid. The horns do not dare answer. The pines do. They whisper yes all the way to the city. The vow runs ahead of us, galloping down the mountains faster than hoof or wind. By the time we return to Nightmere, villagers have hung ribbons from door frames and left bowls of milk under moonlight for the smallest wolves. It's a superstition, perhaps. Or a thank you? Either way, the air feels softer. Inside the palace, however, softness ends at the marble threshold. Counselors buzz like hornets displaced. One, a sleek-tongued noble named Corvin, bows and says, "Majesty, your words at the hunt stirred the realm. The lesser packs grow, confident. Confident wolves build stronger dens." Rowan replies. Corvin's smile doesn't touch his eyes. They might also forget who commands the forest. I feel the undercurrent twist, fear disguised as caution. Then remind them command isn't a crown, it's a promise kept. I say. When was the last time you visited a pack that wasn't rich enough to scent its letters with amber? The noble stiffens. It would be improper. Then you'll accompany me tomorrow, I answer sweetly. Impropriety can be enlightening. Rowan's laughter breaks the tension like sunlight through bars. So written, he says, sealing the decree. You'll go with the Luna to be. When the chamber empties, he leans close. You baited him. I fished. I correct. The bait just happened to speak. He laughs again, low and tired and real, and in that sound I hear what the realm doesn't, a man unlearning solitude one breath at a time. We ride at dawn. Corvin, polished and petulant, insists on a carriage. I insist on a horse. The road cuts through fog where frost clings to heather like silver ash. By noon we reach Hollowmere, a mining pack so poor its banners are stitched from flour sacks. Children watch from doorways, wide-eyed at the royal crest. Corvin wrinkles his nose. Charming! Hungry, I correct. And yours if you claim to serve the crown. The Alpha of Hollowmere greets us with bowed head and bandaged arm. A shaft collapsed last week. We lost 3. His voice cracks. We asked for aid? None came. I look at Corvin. Why? He shuffles parchment. The request, was delayed pending verification. Verification that what? I press. That they're bleeding? No one answers. I kneel beside a child clutching a broken pickaxe. What do you need most? Light, she whispers. The tunnels go dark too early. That night we empty half the royal wagons, oil, torches, spare lanterns, and leave them in the square. Corvin protests about inventory until I hand him one of the lanterns. Carry it, I say. You'll learn how heavy light can be. By dawn, the mines glow like a second sunrise, and the Hollowmere wolves howl not in mourning but in thanks. When we ride back, Corvin's silk is soot-streaked and his silence louder than apology. Rowan meets us at the gate. Well? They'll dig again, I say. And eat. He studies Corvin, who bows, awkwardly, sincerely. Majesty, the man murmurs. I have reconsidered the comfort of lesser packs. Rowan hides a smile. Did the Luna teach you that? Corvin nods. And the dark? The next moon rises clear and hard, bright enough to carve shadows out of air. Rowan calls the realm's elders to assembly. I stand beside him, the mark on my wrist alive as memory. The vows we make tonight, he tells them, will shape the law itself. I speak after him, voice steady though my pulse thrums. Every pack will grant Omegas the right to refuse binding, the right to learn, the right to run. No wolf will be traded for peace or coin. Murmurs ripple, shock, resistance, all. One elder, gray-browed and weary, asks, and if a pack defies these laws? Then the moon defies them, Rowan says. And so will I. He takes my hand before the assembly. The realm has called you Luna since the night you wore my cloak. Let it be written. Let it be done. A hush follows, the kind that belongs to turning pages and shifting worlds. The elder raises the circlet of silver flame, its light kisses my brow. By moon and blood and vow, he intones. Rise, Luna Nia of the tide moon. The court kneels. I barely breathe. Rowan whispers. The crown sits lightly only on those who remember why it's heavy. I'll remember. I promise. Outside, wolves howl again. Not command, not fear, but belonging. The realm itself seems to breathe easier, as if the moon finally found the reflection she'd been missing. Later, when the hall has emptied of applause and politics, Rowan and I walk the terrace where night pools between marble rails. The sky is all frost and promise. You've changed them, he says quietly. No, I answer. They were waiting to change. They just needed permission. He studies me a long time, the way one reads a map whose borders keep redrawing. What do you need, Luna? I think of soot-haired children and the haven's laughter spilling through broken windows. I think of Kasha kneeling in flower dust, smiling when she forgets she's supposed to hate me. I need time, I say. And peace enough to use it. You have both, he says, though we both know peace is a fragile guest. Still, when he reaches for my hand, I let him find it. The moon hangs fat above the palace, and for once its light doesn't feel like judgment. It feels like home. Winter creeps across the realm like a slow breath, silvering the pines and frosting the palace arches. I spend my mornings in the haven, sleeves rolled, hands deep in dough beside the Omegas who have learned to laugh again. Kasha hums under her breath while shaping loaves. Sometimes she forgets to flinch when I speak. That feels like its own small victory. Your Majesty shouldn't soil her hands, one of the guards mutters once. I smile at him, flour streaking my cheek. That's how kingdoms starve, I say, pressing a loaf into his startled palms. By noon, the ovens glow and the reading corner fills. Ruth drills numbers with the patience of a saint. Mira teaches script with chalk that squeaks like mice. I take the ledger seat, where charity becomes math. We set prices that honor labor and leave room for hunger to be brief, not permanent. In the afternoons I walk the city wrapped in a plain cloak. Wolves nod now, some shy, some bold. A butcher offers a slice of pear-cured meat. A seamstress tucks a moon-white ribbon into my pocket. For luck when luck is late. In alleys, I listen to the undercurrent. It sounds less like drowning and more like a river remembering its banks. At dusk I return to the palace with smoke in my hair. Rowan is usually in the map room or the practice yard, the gold in his eyes tired at the edges, the kind of tired that comes from hauling a realm up a hill it didn't know it could climb. He watches me cross the flagstones as if the day's frost doesn't matter when I am moving through it. That night, snow begins in soft, indecisive flakes. We stand on the terrace and let it find our faces. When the thaw comes, Rowan says, I'll summon all alphas to witness the new code, the Omega writes in written law. Some will come to bless, I say. Some will come to break. Then we'll teach them how laws hold, he answers. And how kings do. Kings, I correct gently. And queens. He inclines his head, and in the snow-bright silence I hear the realm take another step toward the light. The summons goes out on winter vellum stamped with the nightmare seal. Responses ride back on cold-breath horses, acceptance, reluctance, threats dressed as etiquette. Among them, a curiously short note from Alpha Severin of Iron Vale. We honor the king's word, as iron honors the forge. It feels like a yes sharpened to a maybe. Preparations swell. The great court is scrubbed to a glare. Banners of every pack unfurl along the colonnades like a language of wind. The haven sends bread and broth in huge cauldrons. Verina's coin pays for both without trembling now. Cassia drafts a list of tasks and, to my astonishment, requests the worst of them: night watch, latrine duty, ash hall. I'm learning the weight of what I owed, she tells me. I'd rather my back remember than my mouth pretend. On the eve of assembly, the elder comes to my chamber with a box of dark wood inlaid with river pearl. Inside lies a torque of silver flame. The Luna's pledge collar, worn only when law is bound. The last to wear it, he says, voice hushed, was Rienne of the Tide Moon. She placed her throat in the circle so the realm would understand what sacrifice means. My wolf goes quiet, listening. I lift the torque. It's heavier than it looks. What did it cost her? Nothing. The moon did not return, he answers, which is the sort of comfort that isn't. When he leaves, Rowan steps from the shadow of the door. He must have heard. Kings hear everything thickened by grief. You don't have to wear it. I do, I say. Because there are eyes that only understand a circle as collar and not as covenant. I'll teach them the difference. He doesn't argue. He comes close enough that our breaths make a small warm room. If anyone reaches for that circle with a knife, Rowan murmurs, their knife learns what unforgettable means. Unforgettable? I echo softly. An oath I practice every hour, he says, and for once I'm the one who can't laugh because it would stop me from crying. Assembly day arrives with a sky of hammered pewter and snow the color of old wool. Alphas pour through the moon gates in a procession of fur and iron, each ringed by betas and banners. The air smells of pine and malice and perfume. I take my place beside Rowan on the dais. The torque cools my throat. The mark on my wrist warms in answer. The elder unrolls the parchment of the new code. Its words are simple and devastating. No Omega shall be bound without consent. All wolves may learn letters. Labor buys bread before pride buys silver. When the elder finishes reading, the court noise rises like steam from wet stone. Some nod, some glower, some recalculate their futures. Alpha Severin steps forward to speak for Iron Vale. He bows correctly, and only his eyes betray that he has never once bowed inside his own heart. Majesty, he says, smooth as river ice, Iron Vale respects order. We ask only that tradition be honored in interpretation. Law that can be interpreted into cruelty, Rowan replies, isn't law yet. Severin's mouth smiles without his teeth. Then perhaps we should test the strength of your words. He lifts a hand. The hall doors swing wide. 6 cloaked figures spill through like winter wolves. A 7th remains in the threshold, face hidden. Guards, Rowan says, and steel rings like bells. But the cloaked figures don't draw blades. They throw sacks, rough burlap dark with torch oil, down the center aisle. A spark hisses. Fire crawls like a thought that should have been stopped sooner. Screams fracture the air. I'm moving before fear has time to choose a shape. The tide moon flares, silver surging from my wrist into my palm. I lift my hand and light leaps like rain, spreading across the oil, drinking it, eating it, turning flame to steam that rises and vanishes. The hall gasps. The last tongues of fire sigh out beneath my fingers. Only then does the 7th figure drop the hood. It's Corvin, polished, penitent Corvin, his face stricken, his hands bound. Majesty, he cries, they took my child. His voice breaks. They said if I brought chaos to your law, they would give her back. The undercurrent slams cold as river ice. This is not Severin's whole game, it's a blade wrapped in a father's desperation. Rowan's eyes go to mine. We do not speak. We do not need to. The cloaked wolves reach for knives at last, and the court staggers into a dozen small, stupid battles. Rowan leaves the dais with the speed of a winter hawk. His beta moves like a door slamming shut. I find Corvin, cut his bonds, and catch his shoulders before he tips into grief. Where? The granary vaults, he gasps. Severin's men, iron badges on their cloaks. Then that's where we go. Rowan intersects us at the moon gate with 10 guards, eyes bright and lethal. We end this in the vaults, he says, and the pack answers him with a growl that has waited years to be used for something clean. The vaults are cold-bellied and deep. We descend through air that tastes of grain and damp and old fear. At the bottom, torchlight licks the stone. 2 iron-badged rogues bar the way, smug as boys who think their fathers own the river. They sneer until Rowan looks at them. Then they remember what rivers do to fools. Beyond them, a chamber stacked with sacks, a small figure tied to a pillar, and Severin himself with a blade he probably thinks makes him a king. He presses it to the child's throat and calls into the dark. Your laws are a dream, Nightbane. Wake up or bury her. For a heartbeat, everything breathes once and stops. Rowan's face empties of all expression, which is how I know what he is about to do. He takes off his crown. He sets it on the floor. He steps forward unarmed. Take me, the Alpha King says, voice low, steady. I am the exchange. You wanted unforgettable? Here it is. A king's life for a child's. Even the torches seem to flinch. Severin laughs, thin, unbelieving, hungry. You bluff. Rowan's eyes never leave the blade. No. I choose. He kneels, palms open. Let the realm remember which alpha protects the smallest wolf. The child sobs once. My heart turns to a storm. I step into it. Severin, I say, and my voice carries like a bell in the stone. You're not trading for a life. You're buying your own ruin with a coin you don't understand. He sneers. The Omega who thinks light is a weapon. It is, I answer, and raise my wrist. The tide moon blooms, silver and river slow, filling the chamber with a pale dawn. Severin squints, blade twitching. What is this? Truth, I say, walking forward. Look! The light catches the iron of his knife and shows him its history, the ore taken by starving hands, the coin paid in insult, the forging under a foreman who beat an Omega to death and wrote it up as efficiency. The blade remembers everything we pretend it doesn't. Severin sees it in the light, and for a breath he isn't an alpha. He's a boy whose father told him might makes right because they had nothing else to sell. Put it down, I say softly, or the realm will see what the knife just showed you, and no river will ever carry your name except to drown it. He shakes. Pride fights. Fear fights harder. He lowers the blade a finger's width. It's enough. Rowan moves like night when it remembers it's also a storm. The blade skitters. The child is in my arms, light closing over her like warm water. Guards flood the chamber. Iron badges hit stone. Rowan stands over Severin, chest heaving. Tradition, he says, voice rough, is not a god you can feed children to. Severin snarls. You'll exile me? Worse, Rowan answers. You'll watch the realm you tried to break get better without you. He looks to me. Luna? Strip the titles, I say. Give Iron Veil to the scar-browed alpha of the Furlans on guardianship until Iron Veil learns the law like bread. Severin will serve in the haven under Kasha. Let him carry ash until his bones memorize gentleness. The guards haul him up. He spits on the floor and misses both our boots. Pride to the last. Rivers know what to do with rocks like that. They keep moving. We return to the great court bearing the child like a lantern. The hall still smolders with panic and the stink of singed pride. When the crowd sees Rowan alive and the girl unhurt, a sound rises that I will keep in my chest for the rest of my days. It isn't applause. It's relief, in every language wolves have. The elder pounds his staff once. By moon and witness, the code is affirmed. He turns to the assembly. Let it be recorded that on this day an Alpha King offered himself for the smallest wolf, and Aluna turned a blade into a book that would not lie. Rowan lifts the child to her father. Corvin collapses into her hair and weeps like a man who has finally run out of ways to be proud. He turns to us on his knees. Majesty. Luna. My life is yours. Keep it, Rowan says gently. Spend it where she sleeps. The court arranges itself around the new reality. Some bow with awe. Some with calculation. A few cannot bow at all, yet. That's fine. Time is a river, and we have learned to move it. When the hall empties, the two of us stand beneath the high windows where the snow softens to rain. I touch the torque at my throat, then unfasten it and lay it on the moonstone rail. Heavy, I say. Rowan sets his crown beside it. Lighter shared. We watch the city breathe. From the haven's quarter, laughter carries, rough, bright, alive. Cassia will be there with flower on her cheek, teaching Severin which end of a broom is the prayer. Verena will be tallying coin and discovering it's possible to count differently. The mines at Hollowmere will glow. The boar will drink from a stream that forgot to be a battlefield. Unforgettable. I murmur, thinking of the vault, the king on his knees, the blade, the light that told the truth and was not refused. Rowan's hand finds mine, warm as bread. Only the beginning, he says. And I believe him. Because the moon that once witnessed my shame now crowns every street with ordinary silver, and the girl they stripped at a ball stands unstripped at the heart of a realm that finally knows what Alpha and Omega mean, not ladder and rung, but pack and promise, king and queen. The thaw arrives in slow sighs, snow loosening from roofs, ice retreating from the river's edge, and green daring to return to the hills. The realm breathes again, though scars glint beneath the melt. I spend the mornings at the haven, where Cassia leads her workers with a quiet competence that once would have shamed her. Severin scrubs floors without a word, his former arrogance drowned somewhere between ash buckets. When children laugh near him, he flinches, then forces himself not to. It's a strange, small penance, but it's working. The new laws are ink now, not rumor. Wolves come from far provinces to hear them read aloud in public squares. Some kneel. Some spit. Change tastes different depending on the tongue, but it cannot be unsaid. Rowan rides often, to quell disputes, to inspect bridges, to speak with miners who still don't believe a king remembers their names. I ride beside him more often than not, and each time the land feels a little less guarded when I pass. One evening, we camp by the western cliffs where the sea pounds the rocks like a drum. Rowan stares at the horizon long after the fire dies. I keep thinking of that night in the vaults, he says. If you hadn't been there, you would have still offered yourself. I finish. That's who you are. He turns toward me, expression carved from something gentler than pride. That's who we are. It takes 2 vows to make a kingdom. The tide roars below us, relentless, eternal. I reach out, tracing the edge of his palm. And 2 stubborn hearts to keep it alive. Months fold into one another. The haven expands into a network, bread houses in 3 cities, learning halls in 2. The children of Hollowmere send carved stones as gifts, each etched with runes of thanks. Cassia reads letters aloud to the new arrivals. I was bound, now I am free. I was silent, now I speak. Each one feels like a heartbeat added to the realm's pulse. But peace, as always, attracts envy. Rumors reach us from the border, whispers of an alliance forming between exiled alphas and merchants who miss the old ways. They call themselves the Pure Line. Their emblem, a broken moon. When Rowan brings me the first intercepted message, his jaw is hard. They claim the laws weaken bloodlines. Bloodlines were already weak, I say. That's why they fed on fear. He nods. Still, I'll not let rebellion fester in dark corners. I'll go, I say before he can forbid it. They won't speak to a king, but they'll underestimate an Omega. Rowan hesitates, torn between fury and faith. Finally, he exhales. Take 3 riders. And the light that listens to you. I'll take both. I promise. One seen, one not. We ride east through forests that still carry winter in their bones. The pure line's hideout lies in the ruins of an old temple, its spires snap like teeth. My riders stay behind as I enter alone, cloak drawn low. Inside, voices rise in argument, a dozen alphas, their eyes fever-bright around a crude map of Nightmare. One spots me. A messenger? An offer, I say, stepping into the flicker of torchlight. A chance to be remembered as something better than ghosts. They laugh. You're the Luna. I am a wolf, I correct. And wolves don't survive by cutting the pack in half. The leader, a scarred brute with the eyes of someone who never learned to doubt himself, leans forward. Your code makes kings soft. You'll breed weakness into the world. Maybe, I say. Or maybe strength finally looks like mercy. His snarl cuts through the air. Words. Then look, I whisper, lifting my wrist. The tide moon ignites, filling the ruin with light that reveals everything, the stolen armor, the hunger, the children sleeping in corners while their fathers plot war. The alphas freeze, confronted by the sight of their own decay. This is what purity buys, I say. Starved sons and fearful daughters. The scarred alpha lowers his eyes first. What would you have us do? Come home, I tell him. The realm needs builders, not ghosts. And for once, they listen. By the time we return to Nightmare, the pure line has dissolved into dust and duty. Rowan meets me at the gate, relief hidden badly behind authority. You walked into a den of traitors. I walked into a den of fathers, I answer. They just forgot what they were protecting. He laughs softly. You keep rewriting the world faster than I can read it. That's because you still think it's a book, I tease. It's a song, Rowan. You have to hear it to understand. That night, under a moon fuller than I've ever seen, the elder calls the court to witness the renewal rite, a celebration of peace and survival. Fires are lit on every terrace, wolves dance in circles until dawn, and the tide moon glows bright enough to make the snow blush. As music rises, Rowan extends his hand. Luna of the tide moon, he says formally. Will you dance with a tired king? With a man, I correct, smiling. Yes. We move together beneath the sky that has watched every sorrow we've survived. The court cheers, the world, for a breath, feels unbreakable. Spring breaks open like a song that doesn't know when to stop. Rivers run gold with meltwater, and children chase blossoms through the streets. The Haven hosts its first, Omega Fair, a festival of crafts, stories, and trade. Omegas sell everything from carved charms to spun glass. Betas and alphas alike fill the square, paying coin and respect in equal measure. I stand beside Kasha at a stall of silver-threaded scarves. She watches the crowd, awed. You think this lasts? If we keep choosing it, I say. Peace isn't a gift, it's a habit. Rowan joins us, looking almost human in simple leathers. I like the habit, he says, and buys a scarf he will never wear just to make Kasha smile. When the sun dips, a choir of young wolves sings an old ballad rewritten to honor the Haven. Their final verse echoes through the city. The smallest wolf once walked in fear. Now moonlight keeps her near. Rowan takes my hand. They're singing about you, he murmurs. About us, I say, and watch the lanterns rise into the dusk like 1,000 remembered vows. By midsummer, the scent of rain and ripe grain drifts through every open window of Nightmare Palace. Rowan and I rise before dawn most days, walking the ramparts as the sun slips over the valley. The river gleams like melted glass, threading through fields newly planted by hands once forbidden to own them. The world feels wider now, less built of fear, more of promise. Still, letters arrive. Some threaten, some beg. Power always resents rediscovery. The elder warns that a few noble lines whisper of restoring balance, which is their polite way of saying take back what we lost. We answer not with swords but with schools. We send scribes and teachers to the far provinces, each bearing a book and a loaf. Ink spreads faster than blades, Rowan says. But both must be sharp. One evening, as thunder hums in the distance, I find him alone in the council chamber, a map before him and worry heavy on his face. There's a drought forming in the south, he says. If the harvest fails, even peace will starve. Then we move the river, I tell him again, smiling. Like we promised. He laughs quietly. You never forget. Neither do rivers, I say, and press my palm to the map. The mark flares, tracing new lines of water through the drawn hills. When I lift my hand, the ink glistens with real damp. Magic? He whispers. No, I answer. Memory. We ride south within the week. The fields there crack underfoot, and the air carries dust instead of scent. Villagers gather with hollow eyes, too proud to beg and too weary to hope. I dismount and kneel in the dry streambed, closing my eyes to listen. Beneath the earth, faint and stubborn, the river still moves, choked but alive. Rowan kneels beside me. Can you reach it? I can ask. I murmur. I press my wrist to the ground. The tide moon flickers, then pulses brighter. A low vibration hums up through my bones, through the soil, through the waiting silence. When the first trickle bursts from the dirt, someone gasps. Then another. Then a surge, a thin silver snake that widens into a rush. Children shout and splash barefoot into the newborn stream. Women fall to their knees. Men stare as if they've seen the moon descend. Rowan cups a handful of the water and lets it spill back, reverent. The river remembers you. It remembers kindness, I say. I just reminded it where to look. By dusk, the valley sings with the sound of water returning home. And for the first time since winter, the king lets the world see him smile without restraint. When we return, the palace feels smaller, quieter. The haven's messengers bring news, literacy spreading, trade fair, disputes settled before fists rise. Yet beneath all this triumph, I sense the fatigue in everyone's shoulders. Progress costs breath. Kasia comes to my chamber one night, soot on her fingers, and blurts, I think I love someone. I look up from my desk. Then you're alive? She blushes. He's Severin. For a heartbeat, I say nothing. Then, does he know? He's afraid to. Good, I reply, smiling softly. Fear means he understands the risk. Tell him anyway. She nods, trembling. Will you bless it? I'll bless honesty, I say. Love doesn't need my permission. When she leaves, I sit long after the candles die, thinking about how even the most ruined hearts can grow green again if the world stops trampling them. Autumn drifts in on wind that smells of cider and wood smoke. The haven's first scholars graduate, wolves of every rank reading, writing, dreaming. We hold a ceremony in the city square. Rowan stands before them, voice carrying over the crowd. You've learned the alphabet of freedom, he says. Now write something worth surviving. Cheers echo down every street. I watch the faces, scarred, beautiful, ordinary, miraculous. Somewhere among them, the next Luna or king will be born, not through blood, but through will. That night, when the crowds disperse, Rowan and I wander the empty market. Do you think they'll remember us? He asks. Only if we keep giving them reasons, I answer. But that's the point of peace. It forgets who built it because no one has to bleed for it anymore. He considers this, then slips his arm around my shoulders. Then let's make ourselves forgettable. For once, the idea feels perfect. Years pass softly. The palace fills with the sound of running water and distant laughter. The haven grows into a district of its own, self-sustaining, self-teaching. Kasia and Severin, yes, Severin, marry under a silver moon, humble and radiant. They name their first daughter Rienne, after the queen who taught the world that compassion is stronger than lineage. Rowan and I watch from the crowd like any other pair of villagers. When the vows are spoken, I whisper, That's what legacy looks like. He squeezes my hand. No crown required. Later, as the celebrations fade, we walk through the quiet streets of Nightmare. The city hums with life, the kind that no law could have commanded, only inspired. The moon rises, full and familiar. I lift my wrist. The tide moon still glows softer now, like a heartbeat at rest. Rowan touches it reverent. The realm will change again after us, he says. It should, I reply. That's how rivers stay alive. He smiles. And when they tell stories of this age, they'll say the Alpha King and the Omega Queen built a kingdom where even the smallest wolf could sing, I answer. And then they'll add what every good story needs: hope. We stand there until dawn, the city breathing around us, and I realize that for the first time in my life, time itself feels kind.